Title: The Dead Man's Secret. The hospital at night had a silence that felt suffocating, as though even the walls held their breath, knowing what lurked in the shadows. But to Vincent, the night shift porter, it was just the beginning of something more thrilling. Most people would be horrified by the idea of death, but to him it was something entirely different. It was a secret, a temptation, and tonight, like every other night, he couldn't ignore it any longer. Vincent had worked in the hospital for years, pushing carts of linens, mopping floors, and transporting bodies to the morgue. No one ever paid much attention to him. His job was one of invisibility, and he reveled in it. He knew the hallways better than anyone else, knew which rooms were silent and which ones were full of mourners or doctors in hurried whispers. But it was the morgue where his true fascination began. Each night, as the final rounds were made, the lifeless bodies were wheeled down to the cold, sterile room where they would remain until the coroner arrived. Vincent would watch them being rolled in, their still faces pale and untouched by time. And for Vincent, it was the calm that held him there, standing at the threshold, waiting for them to be left alone, just for him. It began with curiosity. At first, he would simply observe, but slowly his desire twisted into something darker. He would enter the morgue after hours, when the night watchman's eyes were elsewhere, and he would stand over the bodies. They weren't truly gone in his mind. They were simply waiting for him. The first time he touched one, it felt like an electric shock that buzzed under his skin. Cold, yes, but the sensation only intensified his desire. He told himself it was just a passing need, an impulse he could easily control, but every night it grew stronger. The pale skin, the stiff limbs, the empty eyes, everything about the bodies called to him. One night, the hospital had a particularly gruesome case. A young woman, a victim of a terrible car accident, had been brought in. Her face was unrecognizable, battered beyond repair. Vincent watched from a distance as the nurses covered her, their faces grim. But as they wheeled her past him on her way to the morgue, he felt a pull. There was something in the way her body had been arranged, a grace that was impossible to ignore. He had to see her. The morgue was quiet when he slipped inside, a place that was both chilling and strangely comforting to him. He made his way to the refrigerated drawers where the bodies were kept, the hum of the machines almost lulling him into a trance. He knew it was wrong, but there was a craving inside him that burned hotter than his guilt. As he opened the drawer, he was greeted by the woman's broken face. Vincent's breath caught in his throat. She had been beautiful once, he could tell, but now she was just another corpse to him. He didn't care. He touched her, his hands trembling with anticipation. There was no resistance, only a terrible stillness that drove him deeper into madness. He couldn't explain it. He didn't want to. The cold of the body, the silence, it was all he needed. It was the one place where he felt powerful, where the fear he had always hidden behind a mask of professionalism disappeared. That night, he did what normal people would class as despicable. He uncovered the body and stood for a while as he stared at the hourglass shape of the young woman's body laying on her back. He hadn't been with a girl for years, so the thought of sex without consequence suddenly made sense to him. Her body was laying there, just for him. He loosened his belt. A flash of doubt entered his mind for a split second. But that wasn't enough for him to stop him doing what he came to do. He decided not to look at her broken face as he mounted her lifeless body. The opportunity was taken. And when the morning shift began, Vincent returned to his duties as if nothing had happened. No one noticed. No one ever did. And as he wheeled the next lifeless form down to the morgue, he couldn't help but wonder how long it would take before someone discovered the truth, if anyone ever would.